there's a little known document called the exam content outline. You can find it on the PMP prep page. Okay, let me demonstrate something. I think this will be really beneficial to you. Let me do this real quickly. I demonstrate this document when we go through our classes, so we might as well talk about it here too. Okay, here's the PMI website, Project Management Institute. And if it has its own PMP page, the exam content outline has always been here. And it's right down here where my cursor is. See the current exam content outline? Well, they just this last June released a new one, okay? Let's open up the current one because that's the one that applies to the exam today. Exam content outline, right? And you'll notice this one was created in June of 2015, about the same time the Talent Triangle was released. Isn't that interesting? This is a really beautiful document. It has a good description of where the exam came from and how the questions are created. That's always an interesting read if you're interested in this exam. But it also says the exam's totally random. And the only thing that we can really share with you is the questions basically are broken into 5 groups. Initiating is one group, and that's getting project approval. Planning, of course, is developing a plan. Executing is leading and directing a project. Monitoring, controlling, and closing, right? So right off the bat, everybody who prepares for the exam has an opportunity to know which one of these groups is more influential on the exam. A third of your questions are going to be in leading and directing the team to get the work done, and communicating and working with your stakeholders, and managing by walking around and performing quality activities, right? That's great, okay? Well, not only that, but the exam does 2 more, exam content outline says a couple things. It talks about tasks, and these tasks are project managers' tasks that they do within these groups. So on the exam, you can assume that you'll be tested on these things, right? And a third of your question, let's go into executing tasks. A third of the questions are going to be on these 7 tasks, and one of these is manage task execution. One of them is managing flow of information, and one of them is maintaining stakeholder relationships. And this isn't just having meetings and sending out email. Task 6 and 7 also infer that we're talking to people in hallways and talking to people in the elevator, but you can't read that from here. You have to go into the PMBOK guide that says, here's a good way to do this. So you have the tasks over here and you have the guide over there, and you sort of have to put them together. The other thing that the exam content outline says is, here are the skills required. This was really smart of them to put here, because if I'm a project manager and I don't understand one of these tasks, all I can do is look for a book and maybe some classes and maybe a mentor or expert who's good at one of these skills, and I can build the ability to do these tasks better. This is a brilliant tool for somebody who's individually driven, and they're really good tools in building an exam, right? And they're great for also preparing for the exam too. So we recommend that the PMBOK is the primary resource that you use in preparing, but the exam content outline also helps you. Now, this is the recent one, okay? This is the one that works on the exam right now. They released a new one this year. Take a look at this one. And by the way, this new exam content outline doesn't change the exam until next June. Everything I'm talking here doesn't affect anything until the exam changes. I think July 1st is the first time you can take the new exam. Let's look at this new exam content outline and see what it looks like. Well, the color page is nice, right? That's the same. But right up here it says we're not going to be using this until July 1st, right? Okay, it still talks about the exam, and it still talks about how the questions are developed. However, all of a sudden, 42% of the questions on the exam starting next July is on leadership. Half the questions are going to be on the PMBOK, the technical part of project management. And about 10% of the questions are going to be on the business environment. So no longer are they structuring the exam questions and the basic framework around the 5 groups: initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, controlling, closing. They're structuring it around the triangle, and they're actually moving us in the direction of thinking about project management as not just technical management, but also leadership and business acumen. Well, it's time for Tim to say, but wait, there's more. There's a statement right down here. It's in bold. About half the examination will represent predictive, which is traditional project management approaches, and the other half will represent Agile. So half the exam starting next July will be as if you are a project manager managing Agile projects. So if you want to take the exam before next July, it's going to be on the traditional approach and primarily there. After July, we're going to be testing, not just talking about, not just looking the things up on the PMBOK, but actually you'll be tested. And 50% of the questions on the exam, there's 200 questions there, will be on how do I manage Agile. It's not going to talk about sprints and backlog. This is going to talk about, you have an Agile project. What does that mean for your schedule? Okay, let's get back to the presentation. So you know what the impact is, right? Let's see here. There we go. So totally new layout with the exam content outline. Alignment with the talent triangle. It integrates Agile and it breaks out task by task and enablers. I didn't show you this. Let me show you one last item. And this is fascinating. Remember how we were looking at the current exam? In just a second here. And it said we had tasks and skills. Look at what we have now. We have something called task statements and enablers. That's sort of cryptic, isn't it? Let's look at these and see if we can actually decipher what they really mean, okay? In people or leadership, we manage conflict. That's what we call a task statement. The enablers are interpret the source and stage, analyze the context, evaluate, recommend, and reconcile. Sounds like we're giving examples and we're getting more detailed guidance in how to manage conflict. That's nice. Thank you very much. Yes, I will, certainly. Leading a team is the same thing, right? This is the general activity, that's the general task, and a project manager sets a clear vision, supports diversity and inclusion, values servant leadership, determines an appropriate leadership style. Isn't this brilliant? We didn't go into details here like in the current exam content outline, did we? It doesn't just tell you that you do this, it tells you how you can do it and how you can do it well. So all of a sudden, you know, we were seeing the PMBOK getting really good at not just being a standard, but giving context. And all of a sudden, the exam content outline is doing the same thing. We're refining the message of project management and the value of project management, and we're giving specific advice in how to perform this. Isn't that brilliant? Okay, so there we are, right? What does this mean to me? It says that the exam is changing. And if you like the way things are right now, take the exam as it is right now. If you'd like to wait, wait. Now, I'd like us to consider continuing this conversation on a regular basis. If you have questions throughout the next few months, no matter what decision you make, we're here in an advisory role. We're not just here selling training. One of the things you'll actually learn, especially as you're gaining your PMP, that the PMP is an obligation. It's a commitment and an obligation, and it says, I have to be here. I have to help you. And if you're interested in project management, I'll be right beside you. I got your back. Everybody who takes the exam and signs up to take the exam takes that same oath. It's one of those types of community, right? We take care of each other. And so we'll continue to be here for you as we discuss this. But now you know a little bit more about what's going on and you know the background. But actually, that's not the big picture. The big picture is how this shapes your career. First of all, the credential still evaluates and demonstrates two things. It shows when you pass the exam, you have some knowledge and you're able to apply it to solve problems, just like we talked about, right? It's not just acquisition of knowledge. It's the expert application of that knowledge the exam tests. So that's pretty powerful. That's still there. The credential says you're also an expert leader. Isn't that interesting? Wouldn't it be nice to say, I am a formally recognized manager and leader? I am formally trained in management and leadership. Take that inside your company to your HR department. And then also, the credential demonstrates ability to manage projects facing great change. Half the questions are in Agile. And Agile is not just applying sprints in Scrum. It's shaping work and it's controlling work in the face of great change. And if there's something we all agree on right now, we are facing great change every day we walk into the day. And it seems like a lot of companies are embracing the motto, you know, what works today is not what worked last week, right? We're continuing to reinvent ourselves. And so project management itself, especially project management that addresses change, is being looked at more and more, not just as a competitive advantage, but a survival requirement. And what better to have that as part of your credential? And not only that, Project Management Institute shows no sign of stopping. The career project manager, right? Through 2020 and up through 2027, if you get into the research of the surveys, there's no stopping. We cannot create enough project managers for this planet. We can't. We can't keep up with the business demand, okay? Second of all, having a credential that continues to grow and mature really does benefit. It really helps, and it ensures that you stay relevant. The PMBOK is going to change every 3 to 5 years. It's not going to change huge ways. It's going to change, in small transformations like it always has. And the exam content outline, the tasks a project manager performs. And not only that, but the vision and the objective of project management is going to continue to be aligned with the value and the promotion of good work, good practice. Okay, that's what we were here to talk about today. I hope this gives you a really good perspective